Hi guys, now in this video we're going to be looking at some underrated, obscure heavy metal bands from the 90s, and we're going to start right now. So coming from the funk metal scene of the 80s, which seemed quite exciting, this band had an utterly unique sound. A description of their sound would be the grooves of their goofy peers filtered through the refined rock textures of a band like Rush, doused with laudable British eccentricity. Their debut album, Cruel, bursts with stunning songs and sounds completely original today. Despite a snare sound that sounds like a Tupperware pot being thwacked with a wooden spoon. And by the way, their drummer Neil Cooper is now in therapy, and this is an undeniable, subtly funky force of nature throughout. Now the next album, Chasm, is just as good. Now, establishing the middle ground between groove metal and nu metal, Pulkas were British bruisiers with a well-timed sound that for a moment looked like the answers to UK's scene's aspirational prayers. This 98 album, Greed, was a darkly menacing beast, but unfortunately the band never quite got to that upper echelon and were easily overlooked in favour of uninterested music lovers dressed in enormous trousers and quirky hats. But for music lovers who were still watching this video, check out songs like Loaded. It may guarantee to make you want to smash up every single thing in sight. Fraction of music lovers out there, the nu metal era was full of terrible bands that arrived, did nothing of significance, and then vanished to no one's disappointment. However, a band called Out, a French band with some interesting musical ideas, refined a grasp of power electronics and some absolutely banging tunes. Despite being released by Red Runner Records, the 1998 album Exposition was largely overlooked because this was well before Gojira, with very few exceptions. French metal wasn't taken remotely seriously, and it's a shame, but we're in 2021 and there are more metal bands out there globally, and who knows what the French metal scene has to offer. At one point in time, Mindfunk was cited as the next big thing in heavy metal. They looked unstoppable when they released their self-titled, funk-tinged groove metal debut in 1991. It didn't quite work out, and it wasn't meant to be. But their follow-up albums dropped. Think of heavy grunge rock, but with heaviness turned all the way up. And the people who fell from the sky, straight up Stoner Doom, were every bit as brilliant as the debut, and quite how this idiosyncratic mob fell through the cracks is one of the greatest mysteries of 90s metal. Rock definitely had its appeal in the 90s, but Liquid Jesus shrewdly lurked on this periphery and enjoyed the freedom that such an ephemeral association entailed. They were brave, diverse, and full of insidious melodic anthems, and their 1991 album Pour in the Sky remains one of the most musically absorbing albums of the time. A subtly psychedelic masterpiece with charm to burn, but unfortunately, like most of the bands mentioned in this video, they were overlooked. At this point in time, the world thrilled to the sound of drooling smackheads in plaid shirts. Grotus were busy messing with heavy music's intrinsic formula, making some of the strangest, distinctive, out there music of the 90s, combining DIY industrial clatter with looping grooves and dense, neurosis-like atmospherics. Grotus sounded like the future when metal was in dire need of some focus and foresight. Check out their mind-blowing Slow Motion Apocalypse album for ample proof. Now this one really upsets me. I've heard their studio albums, especially their Epidemic of Violence album, which for me is their best album. Just listen to the double bass. Demolition Hammer were formed in 1986 in New York City. Also around this time, bands like Pantera, Machine Head, huge fucking fan of this band. Skin Lab, Propane, they seem to have created a whole new path for thrash scene's hardest survivors and made some brutally intense music along the way. Still deeply saddened that Demolition Hammer don't get the recognition that they truly deserve. Now Japan has its outright bizarre share of bizarre bands, but Finland does have its own share too, and Xysma come to mind. Xysma were fucking crazy. They started off as a straightforward death metal band with songs like Paradise of the Steaming Cadavers, but on 1993's first A Magical album, they were mixing 70's and hard rock riffs with acoustic psychedelia with all the manner of Sonic Kitchen sings into the mix. Definitely ahead of their time and were overlooked as a result. Xysma were crazy geniuses on a mission to blow people's minds and light a fire in the metal underground. Today you have it, guys, a bunch of 90s metal bands that were obscure and overlooked. Let me know if you think I left out any in the comment section down below. Other than that, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.